slightly different talk to what you heard today. Raise of hands, did anyone get sold a security product that would have prevented the Uber hack? Anyone? Okay, well, I certainly got sold, well, attempted to be sold a product like that. And I just wanted to point out that something like that doesn't exist. Thank you very much. Something like that doesn't exist. There is no single product that could solve security for you. There's no silver bullet. And what actually matters is culture and mindset and approach and actually empowering your developers to keep your assets safe. So my name's Andrew. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Deimos. As I was introduced, we're the largest Google Cloud provider on the continent. We have wonderful customers like the Central Bank of Nigeria and Team APT and Kuda Bank, and we work with public companies in the US and the UK and South Africa and all over Africa. And our team, about 100 people, is based in Senegal. Our first employees in Ghana, lots of very smart engineers in Nigeria, and in Kenya and South Africa and the UK, and this is our company. And we are focused on helping customers migrate to the cloud and adopt best practices in the cloud, for example, observability practices and security practices. And so it's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I just want to set the scene quickly, and that's related to a very age-old thing, keeping money safe and keeping personal assets safe. This is not a new topic. This is an age-old topic, and if you go far back, you can look at the ancient Egyptians who invented the lock. And you know, this is a very interesting thing, how locks and bolts and safes evolved. And ultimately, what happened was technological advancement. People built safes, put money in the safe, and people came along and figured out blow torches, and they started cutting through the safe. And they realized you can cut through steel, and so instead of building steel safes, they started building steel-plated safes with concrete in the middle, and so, you know, this is how it went, and on. And ultimately, we ended up with Fort Knox. And if you go to Fort Knox today, you'll find distributed locations with gold in different areas. You'll find 24/7 armed guards, protocols, alarm systems, earthquake monitors, you name it, right? So people are very good at keeping physical assets safe. And so that's the scene. My suggestion, or my understanding, it's your obligation as leaders in the space to keep our customers' data safe, to keep our customers' assets safe. And it's your responsibility, or our responsibility. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I think it's like this, is that right? If it doesn't work, you can just move it on for me, please. Great. Okay. So rising cybercrime in Africa. So that's actually the title of my talk. You need to understand I'm an engineer, and typically people don't listen to us a lot of the time, which is where my frustration comes from. But actually the title of the talk is Rising Cybercrime in Africa. And we're all here mainly for one reason, which is that there are millions and millions of new internet users in Africa every year. Businesses and governments are digitizing. The internet economy, according to the International Finance Corporation, is set to reach $180 billion by 2025. That's a lot of money, $180 billion by 2025. These stats come from Kaspersky. I'm sure everyone knows Kaspersky. It's a Russian security firm. And they're saying, so this is just one type of attack. So this is Q2, 2022, just one type of attack. 5.1 million phishing attacks in Kenya in 3 months, a 438% growth rate on Q1, Q2 over Q1. In South Africa, 144% growth with 4.5 million phishing attacks detected. And in Nigeria, 175% growth, 1 million phishing attacks detected. So you can see where this is going. This is Q1 and Q2 this year. And it's difficult to measure the impact of cybercrime, but surveys indicate the annual cost is at $3.5 billion a year currently, I'm assuming by 2025, it'll be northwards of $10 billion a year. So it's a serious problem. You can move to the next slide, please. Right, so what's actually happening? You don't have to listen to me entirely. While you're sitting here, you're welcome to go and provision a server in the cloud, deploy an application, a fintech API, an app, deploy it, make it public, and go find out for yourself. Wait 5 minutes and come back and tell me what you see. What you will see is that it is immediate. Within 5 minutes, you will get bots and scrapers and probers, and people are looking for weaknesses. What you will see next is that it is indiscriminate. Gone are the days where you're too small to get hacked. Nobody cares. Too big, too old, too small. People are probing for weaknesses automatically. And it is also relentless. So while we are sitting here, who has a public asset? Who's got an API in production? Anyone? Anyone got a website? Well, it's being probed right now, right? As we're sitting here, people are looking for weaknesses. And I'm going to quickly talk about 2 stories and the point of these stories. So the first story is about the hack of Uber, and then I'm going to talk about a typical software company locally and abroad. And the reason why I want to do that is to show you how the best engineering team in the world got hacked very recently, 2 weeks ago. And then I want to talk about us and how vulnerable we are as DeFi and technology startups. So I think a question that I wanted to ask is, what is your defense? Right? We're going to talk about Uber now. If they got hacked, what is your defense? What are you doing to keep your users safe? You can go to the next slide, please. So this is a MITRE attack map. It was done, an attack analysis by Michael Kotswara. And we don't have to go into too much detail. But I want to quickly talk about a couple of things. One, this is not entirely known. There's conjecture. We'll figure it out in the next couple of weeks. And the second thing is that Uber was extremely lucky. Very lucky. This should have been catastrophic. This should have destroyed their business. They were lucky that it was an 18-year-old looking for fame and clout, posting it on social media. In reality, as I'll explain, they could have taken down the entire system. So let's go through the 2 main areas. The first thing is the attacker already had a compromised account. Somebody at Uber, an employee at Uber, had used the same username and password. Andrew at uber.com, my password is password123, ! Right? Use that on Facebook, the same password all over the place. Somewhere it got leaked. And some hacker posted that on a dark forum somewhere on the dark web. And the attacker took that information and went to the corporate network, the virtual private network at Uber, and started trying to log in. So the guy's Netflix and chilling in his bed, gets a 2FA request. What does he do? Instead of doing the right thing, which is contacting security team and say, hey, my account has been compromised, he proceeds to ignore it and starts getting spammed and spammed and spammed, but does nothing. So the attacker, the 18-year-old, gets on the phone, phones him. Hey, this is Uber support. We want to clarify something on your account. We want to reconfigure your account. Can you please give me your OTP? Can you please give me your password? Can you please authenticate this request? And so the employee did that, authenticated. Boom, the hacker gets into the network, authenticated as the employee. So the system doesn't pick up any strangeness. It looks like the employee logged in. Logs into the system, scans this infrastructure, and then my second favorite thing, finds a PowerShell script, and inside of the script was credentials, hard-coded. It's bad practice. Finds this hard-coded script, logs into something called Psychotic, which is a PAM, a Privileged Access Management account, and inside of there, so a PAM, generally, only a few people at Uber will have access, like 5 people will have access to the PAM, but now the hacker's got access to the PAM. The PAM will include admin for everything, email, HackerOne, SentinelOne, AWS, GCP, you name it. Access to everything. It's the keys to the kingdom, the Uber kingdom. And so the data extracts, right? And so I hope you see how easy that was. And the point is, let's go to the next slide, because this is the gist of it. And I hope I'm not lecturing. Well, I'm not going to lecture just yet. But so, of course, hindsight is 20/20. Very easy to look at this and go, oh, come on, this was a silly hack. It's important to note that there was one single weak link. All it takes is one remote employee to be compromised. My suggestion is Uber needs to double down on governance, policies, compliance, education, guidance. We need to educate everyone at Uber. Uber needs to reconsider its blast radius. For example, internal networks are low trust, so you can assume an attacker is going to get in there, and you need to limit access to certain things. And of course, time-based access control can be automated alongside other items. So please, the next slide, and thank you. Okay, spear phishing. So phishing typically is wide net, targets an entire organization. The attacker is looking for anyone in this room to compromise. Spear phishing, on the other hand, is a single target, like we saw at Uber, specific person in the org, and compromise that account and get in like that. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is the lecture. So please, it's very important for you to understand that you can't blame an employee. You can't, if you get hacked and you don't have the right measures in place, you can't blame an employee. You only look in the mirror to blame yourself. If you are a leader of a fintech company and you are not putting measures in place and you are not investing in security and you are not empowering your team to do their best work, it's your fault. It's not the employee's fault. This is the gist, the next two slides, okay? Please, it's your responsibility as leaders to ensure that your users' best interests are protected. You can go back one slide, please. So I call it boss-driven development. I lived in Nigeria for 4 years, so let's call it Oga-driven development. And this is typically a CEO, a board of investors, somebody at the top with no technical understanding, pushing the development of engineering. And this is inappropriate. This is not how it should be done. Head of engineering, VP engineering, someone with 15 years of engineering experience should be driving development, not the CEO. And typically this turns into a feature factory, and I think everybody in this room would have been involved in feature factories. It's let's impress the investors, let's raise a new round, let's push out some new features without any market research, for example, and just push, 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 and you stretch your team, and typically you're not giving your team the time to do things properly. They want to do things properly, but they can't because it's just feature after feature after feature. And ultimately, developers are not empowered to apply these best practices. There's no tooling and infrastructure available specifically around security and observability. They're not an afterthought, just like quality assurance is typically most times an afterthought. And this is the most dangerous sentence in all of engineering. Yeah, it's time to ship, right? Not that sentence. The sentence is, but what about, we didn't really test this properly. We didn't check if this is going to be secure code. I'll tell you what. Let's ship it, we'll come back later and we'll fix it. And that never happens. It's, to me, the most dangerous sentence. If that's happening in your organization a lot, I really urge you to go speak to your engineering team and change this, please. Okay, next slide. Everyone's getting hungry. So yeah, again, this is actually this is what I see. This is what I see all over the world, in the US, in the UK, in Africa, all over Africa. Companies, well, it's gross negligence at the company level. Because in reality, I've never met, yeah, okay, let me stop there. Let me not say any more than that. So this is gross negligence. I see credentials being committed to public repositories. There's no need for the repository to be public, but there it is. And also username and password, all the creds are just plain text in the main branch. And the repos, there's no need for it to be public. The second thing is plain text passwords in Slack. People are like, hey, can you just send me that credential? They pop it in your DM, they send it over email. It's all over the place. Plain text, sharing credentials. I see private, this is my favorite. So people build applications, there's no need for this to be public, but it's an internal tool, it's an internal API. It's supposed to be locked down to internal transfers, internal payments, and it's wide open to the public. And remember, I told you, people are looking for weaknesses. And they're probing an application that should not even be public in the first place. I see this a lot. And then another one, dev, staging, pre-prod, UAT, QA, and production, all in the same AWS account or Google Cloud account. And so as a dev, you're now a new dev, you get access, and all of a sudden you're basically surrounded by all the assets, right? If somebody gets in there, then they can get into other areas of the account. And this is why I've got a double face palm. It's like we're doing this to ourselves. So this is why I'm saying invest in best practices. You can go to the next slide, please. Almost done. So here's what I think we should be doing, and this comes in with some years of experience in working with my security team. So what you should be doing, besides it, well, investing, is shifting left, I spoke about culture. There isn't a product that's going to solve all of this for you. So what you need to do is work with your engineering teams, work with your product development teams, and apply security in every aspect of the software development lifecycle. Who's been in a feature mapping session? Who's planned a feature with a team recently? Anyone? Yeah, you won't win? Okay. Did you guys discuss security in those feature sessions? No. Nobody does that. And that is actually what needs to happen. When a new feature is planned and designed, somebody should say, okay, how is this feature making the product weak? What is the threat model? How should we model this? And it starts with planning, architecting for security, investing in best practices, SAST, DAST, that stands for static application security testing, dynamic application security testing, and for example, credential detection. You can automate that. You can automate that no leak is happening in the chain, from dev to production. You can automate aspects of this. You can work with quality assurance, so they shouldn't just be testing, does the feature work? They can also test abuse maps, right? So they can consistently test these things. I'm very aware that most fintechs, I think it's because of regulation. I think regulation pushes companies to have to do a security test from time to time. And so I know we do a lot of that, and I'm just saying that not all tests are the same, not all assessments are the same. If you're doing port scanning and that's your pen test, I can tell you you're out of date. You can come speak to me about what a comprehensive cloud-based security assessment looks like. And then, deeply understand the public domain. You can actually run tests to check that your private internal stuff remains there, because things happen, and the new developer comes on and they change things, and all of a sudden your private asset is now public. Last slide, or I think 2 more. So what about DeFi, crypto, and Web3? Well, the reality is it's exactly the same. This applies, and in fact, it's even worse. It's even worse in DeFi. It's even worse in blockchain technology. It's a new and evolving space. We don't understand all the attack vectors. I'm sure you've heard in the news about all the money that's getting lost over time. And, public ledgers, irreversible transactions. You can hear that culture is going to solve this, not a single tool. OK, thank you. The last slide. I've just dropped some. I hope you are I hope you're not looking at this from a fear perspective. I hope you are inspired to walk back to your engineering teams and your product development teams and to start talking to them about these very important topics. So I've just dropped some notes there. You're very welcome to come speak to me about it. I just have a note here that this isn't only about losing people's money or customer data. This is actually about giving everyone peace of mind so that they can build. It's difficult. We heard about the battle with the regulation. You're battling with competitors. You're battling with yourselves. This is to give you peace of mind. Do security properly. You can focus on building. And that's it, I think. I don't think I've got another slide. If there are any questions, you're welcome. Thank you.